Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line for, I think, maybe the third, fourth, or fifth time. I don't know at this point, but he's a friend of the show, ladies and gentlemen, from UFOnut.com. It is Chuck Zukowski. Hello, sir. Welcome to the new year.
Happy New Year to all your listeners, too. Pretty excited. We had a pretty good last year, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen this year. But, UFOs, they're not going away. They keep coming back.
I know, right? And I want to get to that, but real quick, off the air, we were talking, you're a big Christmas light guy. You set up a thing where people come and see your house?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
I've got, not only that, but I've got 2 aliens with Santa Claus outfits on. They're about 4 feet tall. They're in there. I've got a flying saucer on the roof, that blinking light.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of the characters that I cut out myself.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I'm a graphics design engineer. I design microchips, so I can do a little bit of cartooning. I have Frosty, and I have the Peanuts, and SpongeBob, and Grogu, and of course BB-8. But the one that I always get a lot of attention is my Beavis and Butthead.
Really?
I think, some of the parents just, they just don't quite understand that. But, over the years, I've kind of added characters for what my kids, and my kids are all over 30 now, but, kind of what they wanted. My daughter, she's just over 30, and she wanted BB-8. And then last year we added Grogu.
That's awesome.
But way back then, when the kids were in their teens, Beavis and Butthead was the big thing. So I've got them up, and they stand about 5 feet tall, and one of them says Rudolph bites, and the other one their shirt says Santa sucks. And
I'll tell you this right now. Have you seen the new Beavis and Butthead on Paramount Plus?
I'm not on Paramount Plus. I don't have Paramount Plus, but I've been catching some of the older stuff.
This is by no means a Paramount doesn't sponsor any of this, but it is just as good, if not better, than the original stuff.
Nice.
Like fall out of the chair laughing at some of this stuff. There wasn't an episode that I didn't like in the latest run of it. So if you get a chance, it's worth it. I'll tell you that much.
It's hard to watch that stuff because my wife's not into it. I'm a big Robot Chicken fan, and it's Family Guy sometimes, but. When it comes to Beavis and Butthead, it kind of looks at me. But that's the stuff that I was, it's not. I don't want to say cutting edge, but
yeah,
it's not controlled by like South Park. They've had a lot of issues with South Park. Stepping over the proverbial line. We need that even more now than we did before. I wrote a blog just the end of last year. You're kind of poking fun of the, I don't want to say the woke people, but the people that look at ufology and a little differently, and if it's not their way, it's the highway, right?
Yeah.
Where they, you got to be a little bit more open. I actually talked with I met a lady. Well, what happened was my wife and I were at a restaurant. We were coming out of the restaurant at night, and I noticed I saw a badge, an ID badge on the ground, and I picked it up, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is an investigator for DA out of Boulder, and a lady, and she had her postcard. Post is, a law enforcement author, training to prove that you're post certified for law enforcement and all this credentials here. And I'm going, well, she probably wants this, definitely.
Yeah.
And I contacted the DA just before Christmas, and then I think she got back to me afterwards, and we met at a Bass Pro Shops parking lot. I could do some shopping there, but it was a good place to meet. And she saw the license plate on my truck, and she kind of gave me one of those looks.
Yeah.
And I soon realized, just briefly talking with her, that she's one of those highly religious type of people that if it's not mentioned in the Bible, then it doesn't exist.
Okay.
And it really blew me away because I didn't realize that was still a big thing, especially when it comes to ufology. So I kind of did a little bit of research in it, and so it was kind of interesting for me to talk to her and kind of get an idea, their thoughts on it. But then I started realizing, there's today in our social media, we're starting to see a lot of that where there's a lot of people bullying other people on social media because they don't adhere to the way they think. And so that's a nice way of kind of saying it. Anyway, it was just kind of one of these interesting, kind of a little wake-up call to me when, I got, not only do I, as a UFO investigator, it's not that I have to prove what I've investigated. I just put the data out there, and then the people, read it, and they can either agree with me or disagree with me. But I'm going, oh, there's some people that don't even look at it.
Yeah. No, you'd be amazed how many people. Well, I'll tell you this: just in the world of classic rock, man, if you play something that people don't think is classic rock on a classic rock station, you get calls about it.
Oh, wow.
It's, I mean, that's, so yeah, I know it's kind of a weird parallel, but I totally get it. It's like,
well, I've got tinnitus in my left ear from all the times I played my Strat too loud. And, we were, it's because my 412 speaker, 800 watt TV was over on my left-hand side all the time when I was the Marty McFly at the very beginning, right? Where you just crank the volume knobs and see what you can knock off the pictures off the wall. I mean, that's what we did.
Yeah.
And a lot of that music was, it was like, you're right. Some people didn't like it, and so there was kind of a niche. And even for us, back in the garage band days, gosh, what was it? Punk music, right? When it was coming out, it was like, okay, this is stupid. We don't do. I'm not going to adhere to that. And we started listening to some. Well, there's a lot of talented, people out there and bands at the time that were just knocking out of the park. And we were auditioning for a bass player, and I'll never forget. Her name was Flo. And she came in and she had different color hair, and she was into punk rock, but she thought, she'll fit in to see what we did. She just knocked it out of the park. She was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And that's when I realized I'm going, I have to be careful about how I perceive other types of music, because just because it's out of what I play, it doesn't mean it's not good. There's a lot of gifted people out there in all different types. Big band, if you ever go back to big band music, you're like, my God, these guys were just phenomenal musicians back in the 40s.
Absolutely. Chuck Zukowski from UFO Nut on UFOnut.com on the line with me. We probably should talk about UFOs at some point. We've had a great conversation. That's always the really fun thing about talking to Chuck. We always have like a 15-minute conversation beforehand, and then it's something like this during it. But Chuck, let's jump into the world of UFOs. 2022 was kind of a weird year for all of this stuff. What do you think was, I don't know if the big story, the most surprising story, the weirdest thing that come out of 2022? What do you think it was?
Well, in the UFO Nut news, okay, basically, we started off towards the middle of the year, with the military database on UFOs or UAPs. It went from 143 to about 400. More and more military personnel, fighter pilots and stuff, were adding to the list of UFOs that they have encountered, while on duty. Really interesting stuff. We had the Pentagon came out in December, and they have a new division called AARO, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Actually, it was set up in July, but we started hearing about it more towards the end of the year. Now, this new division through the Pentagon tracks UFOs. Now, this is way, way cool, okay, for all your listeners out there. Usually you kind of think of UFOs in the sky, but for years and years and years, we've had, UFOs underwater that we've been tracking, and, that was one of the things that we did on Alien Highway off of California. So this particular office, or what they do is they track UFOs from the sky, from underwater, and coming from space. So that was kind of a really cool thing, because I interviewed a person way back for Unexplained Files Season 2, that it was a pilot that was flying outside of Area 51, He was actually co-pilot at the time for a commercial airline. The local tower, I guess, out of Acres or something, they kind of wanted them to vert a little further away from Area 51 for whatever reason, Nellis Air Force Base. And it happens all the time. So as they were diverting away and kind of banking away, while we were banking, he saw just a buttload of these lights coming down from space, just coming down from space, and they would kind of come down in a vertical, direction, and then kind of stop in angles, would angle down and land on what it looked like a holographic runway near Area 51 or at Area 51. And so I interviewed that guy for TV. But the thing was, is they were coming out of space. And so now, we have, the Pentagon is looking at that now too, because of course we've been looking at stuff, from space since the first Star Space Lab, went up there, Skylab, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. NASA in October had decided, hey, we're going to jump on this and we're going to create our own division of 16 professionals here at NASA that we're going to start looking into UFOs also. So NASA jumped on board. Why not? Because the astronauts going way back to, the Gemini and Apollo have been seeing UFOs. They've been seeing them the whole time while they're going, towards the moon and stuff. And so it's kind of nice now to see NASA come on board and going, okay, we're going to do it too,
Hey, Chuck, let me ask you this about that, because it's weird that they all of a sudden, went from years and years and years of, no, there's no such thing, swamp gas, and so on and so forth. Now it's like, did they just say, okay, we're going to go with the flow to a point just to calm people down and give them kind of what they want? Or are they taking it serious, or are they doing it in a way where they don't have to fight it anymore?
Oh, yeah, good old J. Allen Hynek's the one that came up with that swamp gas thing. And, he was actually contracted by the Air Force, way back, for Project Blue Book. And eventually, as a skeptic, he became a UFO believer because he couldn't make up lies anymore. But I think with NASA, it's getting to the point where there was just getting inundated with people basically saying, look, guys, come on. You're NASA. How can we take you guys serious?
How did you
not
miss
even taking this stuff serious? Yeah. Well, basically, it was like you're keeping information from the public.
Yeah.
We don't trust you, what you're saying anymore. Well, how do we know that, that what you're saying about present day technology is, anyway. And that happens with NASA. There's a lot of stuff that goes up from NASA up in space that we know nothing about. For the longest time, I think it just came down. It was like a miniature space shuttle that's been up there orbiting the planet for like a couple of years, unmanned. So there's a lot of things going on. I personally, when I worked at Rockwell, worked on a spy satellite program, and I only knew what I was supposed to know about that one little tiny bit of information of what I needed to do. But it was cutting edge, and that was over 20 years ago. So who knows what we have up there now? But come on, NASA, you claim to be the best of the best out there, and the leader in space technology, and yet you won't even look over your shoulders in your own backyard.
How does that work? So, do you think NASA feels a lot of competition with like Tesla? It seems like
that's another thing too, yeah.
It seems like we've taken some, like Tesla caught up real quick to what NASA has,
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, good old Musk. Yeah, he's destroying our space with all his Starlink satellites. Oh my God,
Hey, real quick, funny story about that. I had one of my paranormal buddies had no idea what it was, and one night on Facebook, he goes, "I don't know what I just saw, but there was a string of lights. It just went on forever." He goes, "We're being invaded or something."
It's so sad because we just had another one launched about a week or so ago, and what's sad is I do get emails, and side reports about them, and I have to say, it's this and that. There's actually an app, or you can go on your computer and download it, and then it'll tell you. Matter of fact, it'll even tell you where you could see them in the future. So we have to deal with that. I mean, they're not really giant. They're not size of Volkswagens up there or anything. But you got to give Musk, what I like about, I know he's kind of arrogant with what he does, and I guess all these kind of, these entrepreneurs are. But my God, you gotta give the guy credit. He launched a Tesla in space, convertible Tesla in space, with an astronaut behind the wheel, with his arm resting on the door and one hand on the steering wheel, probably listening to rock and roll, right?
It was Starman, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Starman. You're right.
Did you ever hear the conspiracy about that?
No, what's that?
That Elon Musk murdered someone and he put him in the spacesuit and got rid of the body.
That'd be kind of hard to do, but
Hey, I'm just saying. Anyway, but no, I mean, you look at Tesla and all of a sudden they're docking with the International Space Station, and they got I forget what that what's their spacecraft called? That it looks like something straight out of Star Trek with the touch screens and all that.
Oh shoot!
Anyways, but
how you can see the name, yeah.
But anyways, they've caught up to NASA pretty quick, and
real quick.
When you get back to the UFO side of this, is it one of those things that it's just easier to go with the flow? I guess that's the question for NASA and the government. Is it just easier to go with the flow with the UFO stuff and say, all right, we'll take your call instead of you just yelling at us for 15 minutes every day?
Yeah, and I think they really have to, if they want to stay professional, they want people to respect, what they're doing and stuff. And yeah, they got to look at this. There's two different types of technology NASA has. There's the technology that we see that Musk is using, and they're using that over and over and over, like, we've been using, combustible engines since the late 1800s, right?
Yeah.
So they've been using that. So it was really easy for Musk to catch up to that technology. I mean, for God's sakes, our iPhones, the iPhone 6, iPhone 7, even the first iPhone, the technology was more advanced than our space shuttle was.
Yeah.
Just in our smartphones. So it was easy for Musk to catch up to what we see. Now there's a next level technology out there that NASA's involved with in federal projects, right, and military projects that we don't know about. Like I just mentioned, the craft that's been orbiting the Earth for a while. So there's a next level up, but it was pretty easy, for Musk to catch up to the norm, let's say. Now I would love to, ask Elon, what his idea or what his feelings are on UFOs. I'm sure, he's kind of talked a little bit about it, but he's kind of stayed away from the topic for a while. So it would be kind of interesting, what they've experienced at all,
Yeah, you know what, you say that, and you haven't heard anybody from Tesla saying, hey, we had a UFO fly over, shut down our controls, or we saw something, No,
you really haven't. But it'd be kind of interesting to see, what his take on it. I'm sure it would have to be like off the record. I mean, years ago, I interviewed a person who worked at Area 51, and on the record, there's no underground facility, there's no nothing, there's nothing going on there, right? Off the record, there's all kinds of Not only that, but I swear, I mean, if you pay for a polygraph and I take it, I will pass, for what I'm going to tell you next.
Is this going to have the NSA breathing down my neck or anything?
No, I mean, this was a guy who claimed, he worked at, he kind of did. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't anything that was on camera or anything, but I could verify that he worked there. But he actually saw something, and he saw some jets flying, and he just assumed that these were just jets coming into Area 51, and then this kind of craft kind of blinked on in between them. So it turns out they were chase jets. For over 25 years, I've been investigating Area 51. At the time, I was trying to get to Freedom Ridge and take pictures of Area 51, and by the time I got out to, Rachel, Nevada, Freedom Ridge was taken by Nellis, and so I was one of the first 2 or 3 people to hike up Tigaboo Peak and take pictures of Area 51 off at a distance. So, I've been kind of watching Area 51, but, we've had tons and tons of sightings, like I told you, with the commercial pilot has seen that. And then I want to touch base real quick, too, because last year we still had a few cattle mutilations going on in the United States, too, strange animal deaths. And that ties into UFO sightings, balls of light sightings. And that's one of those other phenomenons that are, matter of fact, I think Fox News did something on it just before the end of the year, animal mutilations. Anyway, if you want to jump in that real quick, I can kind of
where were these cattle mutilations this year?
Yeah, we had, I think it was in July,
Okay.
Alaska, near the Delta Junction, they
Oh,
had
really?
animal mutilation where the ears were cut off and the udders were cut off, reproductive organs were cut off.
That's so
I think it was
weird.
March in Oregon. One of the bulls was basically similar types of cuts, surgical cuts. The August in Utah,
Let me ask
like
you
it's
this. Why don't they just take it? You
you
know what
know
I'm saying? I
that
mean,
is that.
I kind of feel like
Now,
if you're going to take that stuff, like, and you don't want people to know, why would you just leave the carcass?
now, a couple years ago, I wrote a blog kind of about that,
Okay. I'm
and
interested.
and basically it is to think like an alien, you have to be an alien.
Okay.
So we really don't know who's ever doing it. Let's say it, at first, the skeptics were saying, well, it's our military doing it, and they're leaving the carcasses there to increase the fear within the people of this UFO thing and da da
Okay, that
da,
makes sense.
and that's what we're doing it. Now the issue is first off, we've had over 10,000 cases of animal mutilations since the late 1950s, and out of all 10,000 cases, the ones that were investigated by law enforcement, they've never found a culprit responsible for it. They've never found a human, or they've never found evidence of an animal doing it. Now, these are true mutilation cases, not, where there's animal cruelty involved. And so we've had all these cases of not leaving any type of evidence. Now, the joke was at the time was special forces. To be able to graduate from special forces, you have to, steal a cow, mutilate it, and put it back. Okay. Well, our special forces are really good. Like I said, both my sons are in the military, and so I know that we have a very advanced military, but we're humans, and humans leave evidence. And I know that from being a reserve deputy for 8 years. When you're looking at a crime, everybody leaves the evidence,
Yeah.
and everything leaves evidence, even if you're an alien. And special forces, unfortunately, isn't that good. Not when they basically had, they crashed a helicopter, a stealth helicopter, no less, in the compound, right? Remember when they were going after, what was it, Bin Laden, right?
Yeah. They lost one of them, didn't they?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all kinds of evidence there. So here in Colorado, the law states in Colorado that if someone comes into a rancher's property and tries to kill one of their livestock, the law here in Colorado says that the rancher can protect his livestock, by force. Okay. I'm not quite sure about Iowa, but if that's the case out here in Colorado. So first off, if you come onto a rancher's property to steal a cow, you could get shot. And then you take the cow out somewhere, you mutilate it, and bring it back. Well, you could get shot again. So you've increased the chances of getting shot, greater, because you're taking an animal off the property, you're mutilating it and putting it back on the property. That's how the kind of things go. So the thing was really interesting about animal mutilations, and you talk about why do they bring it back. I kind of came up with this. Well, aliens, if it is an alien, they don't think like us. That's why they're not going to land on the White House lawn. That's not, because that's what we always say. Well, they just do that. Well, because they're not humans, they don't think like us. They have their own thoughts, and so it's like someone coming to your house and stealing your vehicle. All right, they take your car and they take it over to their shop. And they take the engine out, but it's not registered to them. It's registered to you. So they bring the car back because they understand that that's your property. They don't understand that you need the engine for that damn thing to work.
Okay.
Right? They take the animal, they take what they need from the animal, and then they give the animal back. That's one plausible theory that, it's like, okay, that's yours. We don't want to disrupt, what's going on with this rancher, so we're just going to take what we need, bring it back.
Don't they know that cows are delicious, though?
Well, yes and no.
I mean, what if that's the key to intergalactic peace is just a nice steak?
It's interesting, too, because Christopher O'Brien, who does mutilation cases, made a point when he was on Fox News talking about it last year. He says, well, there's not a lot of mutilations or no mutilations that have been recorded in India where the cows are sacred.
Okay.
And then I got thinking, okay, as when he goes off the board saying, well, it's only a Christian. You can't say that. You can't say religion is it because you just, because religion is our thing, not their thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it might be in some cases where aliens may be aware enough to know that if it's something that's very sacred to a group of people, that they may not muck with it because that would cause more attention type of thing. Right.
At this point, it's kind of a fringe investigation, so let them investigate it. It'll keep them busy.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I actually wrote the Animal Mutilation Investigation Guide for MUFON International years ago, and I was like one of the top animal mutilation investigators in the U.S. Me, Christopher O'Brien, and then there was Linda Moulton Howe, but she's more of an investigative journalist. So, I do listen sometimes when Christopher O'Brien says stuff, but he has a tendency of going overboard, and I have a tendency of staying very analytical and looking at things a little differently and not trying to bring in, like he does religion. I'm trying to bring in, the thought process of what an alien, would do. Now, it's interesting that a lot of my cases with the animal mutilations, I did one really good case here years ago where there were 8 animals that were mutilated within a week out in Walsenburg, Colorado. All 8 animals were within about 3 miles of each other in different sections in 2 different ranches. All 8 of them had the same type of markings. All 8 of them were void of blood. Of course, that's always the norm, and I'll go into that in a minute. But all 8 of them were lying on the same side. Ew. So I think they were all laying on their left side, and all 8 of them were facing east to west. Now, the one thing that I've always noticed with my mutilation cases is 99% of the animals are always facing east to west. Can't tell you why, but that's what sparked my 37th degree latitude theory that went into the book, The 37th Parallel, that was written by Ben Mesrick, that, there's this east to west type of highway or something going on across the U.S. So the more and more you do these things, the more you start, learning some really off-the-wall stuff. But the common denominator is always the blood, regardless if it's a cow, a horse, a dog, a pig, and I've done investigations on other types of animals other than cows. And it's always the blood is number one. They pull the blood out and then they cut it up after that. And I kind of had this goofy theory a little bit ago, just threw it out there going, so what if it's the blood that they want? Just the blood.
Yeah.
And they take the blood, but then they cut it up to make it look like a predator attacked the animal.
What if they need the blood to make the organs work?
Well,
like the stuff
the blood basis.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying with that, but the blood for the reproductive stuff or, whatever organs they take or whatever, what if they need blood to make that stuff work and they can't synthesize it? I don't know.
Well, the thing was originally a lot of my cases, the cuts on the animal were near glands, and maybe the blood might be a little bit different where glands are. And then I kind of just threw something out a couple of years ago going, hey, what are these guys are thinking, like, we wanted to make it look like the animal died of natural causes due to a predator, and so we just cut them up.
So we laser attacked them.
Right, because these stupid humans don't know the difference, right?
It's a wolf with a laser attached to its head.
A wolf with a laser. Well, I think, why not? I mean, Dr. Evil had lasers attached to shark, right? So
frickin' sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com on the line with me right now. As we do get into 2023, I mean, 2022 had, we talked about it earlier, all the different things that came out. Is there anything on the horizon that you kind of get the feeling that we might hear a little bit more about, or you feel like there's going to be, this piece of news coming out? What's kind of your feeling on 2023 right now?
Obviously, we're going to be looking to see what NASA's going to say because they just kind of threw together a team.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting. Already at the beginning of this year, a government agency came out and said, well, we don't have proof that these things are extraterrestrial. Well, for God's sakes, we all know, we're smart enough to know that if you did have proof, that you wouldn't say anything to the public. Why? Because we can't even have a virus without people going ballistic at Walmart and Costco and Sam's Club and stealing all the toilet paper, paper towels, and We see that. No, I don't think the majority of us could actually handle the fact that extraterrestrials are flying over our country. But if you look at it, as if you don't want to go back to, the 5,000, 6,000-year-old theory that, that some people think the planet is only that old, which even makes it worse for us. But, as for humans, we haven't really been on this planet long enough and mature enough to really figure out what's going on. We still don't know how we can retain pictures in our brain. We have thoughts.
Yeah.
We have theories about it, but we don't even understand ourselves. And there's a large part of this planet, an extremely large part of this planet that we've never even investigated. So, we don't even know. We're still making decisions on how if we have a solid core or do we have a liquid core on this planet. So, we're still trying to understand ourselves. So how can we understand, something like an alien? And so there'll be a lot of people out there that's going to go ballistic. Of course, there's going to be a lot of people going, I told you so. Now, to think that we're the only, intelligent life everywhere, that's just stupid.
Chuck Zukowski on the line with me right now. Chuck, let me ask you this. For people that, let's say they see something, let's say they, experience something, get something on camera or, whatever, what's the best thing they can do nowadays? Is it put it up on social? Is it contact somebody? What do they do?
Well, there is International UFO Reporting Center, and I like that as a place to go to. You can actually report it there. There's other cases like MUFON and some other places you can report it to, but sometimes they pay. You have to pay a yearly fee to be able to read other people's reports and stuff. But the International UFO Reporting Center is open to everybody. And if you have a sighting in your area, you go to the International UFO Reporting Center and you look it up. You look up your state. You can look up the month. You can see if anybody within a couple of weeks has seen the same thing you saw. That's first off. That's what I would do. Second thing is, obviously, if you see it and you can catch it on film, right? Well, I don't want to say film, digital, right?
Yeah.
Your cell phone now has got a photo and obviously video. So I always recommend don't take photos, shoot video.
Okay.
And it's only because a lot of times it'll come out better in video. If it's a daytime sighting, try and capture some landscape in there so you can see if the object's moving or not, how fast it's moving, maybe the size compared to a tree or building or mountain or whatever, right? If at night, please do not take photos of night objects.
Okay.
Because it's just a freaking light in the sky. And I'm sorry that, you have a great story, but as an investigator, we're looking at this going, it doesn't mean nothing to us. I mean, it's just a light in the sky, and we can't tell what it's doing. We just have to take your word for it that that's what it did. But that's as far as it goes. It ends right there. If you shoot video at night, you can at least get an idea of the speed. If it does any kind of weird trajectories, different right angles, all kinds of cool stuff, do that. So, and then the cool thing too is if you shoot video, while you're shooting video, if it's so far off and you can't hear anything, if you can hear a noise coming from the object, please don't say anything. Let your camera pick that up. But if it's way off a distance, talk about it while you're shooting it. Oh, I've seen this object. It's going from east to west. It looks like this. And talk a little bit about that. And, because that kind of helps too, because you're in the moment, you're seeing it. And so, as a law enforcement, former law enforcement, it's better to get someone's testimony, after something just happens rather than a couple days later, because it can change.
I was going to say it's probably a crossover from, like ghost hunting and stuff, but maybe notate, where you are, what time it is, direction you're anything that you can do to kind of recreate it and know exactly where and when and what was happening at the moment.
Location is always is the best thing, because that gives us an idea. First off, now for you guys out there, you don't have to say, okay, I was at such and such an address. No, you just a general location. You don't want people to know exactly where you live or anything, but a general location like, the east side of the city or whatever, but, at least a city, and then the direction, the time. Of course, a lot of the videos have got a timestamp on it, and they'll actually have location too. So, what we get off of digital cameras and off the phone, we get the meta information from that.
Well, the other good thing about it, if you notate it in the video and it matches up with the metadata, that's probably got to help out a little bit too. If you say, hey, it's 11:53 or whatever time it happens to be, and it matches up, then that it's probably less of a tampered with file, probably.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's I'm glad you kind of brought that up, because I've got a blog I'll be doing probably next couple of weeks about a little bit about that. I get people emailing me all the time saying, I saw there's a video on YouTube and this UFO and stuff, and what do you think about it? And I got to tell your listeners out there, the majority of stuff you see on YouTube is fake. But how you can tell the stuff is fake is, first off, if you're going to watch a video on YouTube of a supposed UFO sighting or creature sighting or animal mutilation or whatever, and it pops you right into a commercial, they're making money off you. So a lot of these videos, right? So a lot of these YouTube sites, a lot of the stuff is purposely put on there. The more hits they get, the more money they make, and it's a money making. Unfortunately, it's a UFO scam type of thing. Now, any video that you're watching of a UFO and you hear a guy go, hey, look at it. Well, look, what is that? Okay. And then all of a sudden it shoots away. First off, ask yourself, why was that guy pointing a camera at that particular location at that particular time? And what are the odds that image that UFO would explode or disappear or shoot off?
Yeah.
What are the odds that would happen while a guy's filming it? Because those are the kickers.
I always thought it was interesting. I think I told you about this one of the times we talked, but because I always thought it was interesting how nobody can hold a camera steady for anything, whether it's ghost hunting, Bigfoot, UFOs, concert, or no one can ever seem to hold a camera. I got to thinking one time, and I didn't plan it out. I just thought, next time I see an airplane in the sky, I'm going to get my phone out as fast as I can and start recording. It was not a bouncy video.
Right. And that's another reason why I always say video it and not shoot an image, because that's another thing we look at too. Now, back in the days, if you're shooting an image with a camera that's got a manual shutter, you would get what we call the pearl necklace effect, because you're actually pushing down on the camera as you're taking the picture, and so an object will go ta ta ta, because the shutter's so quick, you'll get this pearl necklace effect. It's kind of interesting now that when people take pictures of objects in the sky with a phone, they hit the phone so hard to take the photo of it that it moves the camera forward and backwards instead of up and down. And so you'll get you might get this kind of a donut shape blurry image a bit.
Oh, okay. I get
so the best thing to do, it's just interesting, just, movement of your hands. So the best thing to do, and that's why I always suggest just shoot video of it, because like you said, it's less bouncy, and not only that, but obviously, you can talk about what you're seeing, and we're actually seeing what you're talking about, and makes it a little bit easier as investigators. But it gets rid of a lot of that camera movement too. And then, of course, even shooting video, if you can get something in the background, to show us, something stationary, that really, really helps.
Awesome. Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com on the line with me right now. Real quick, I've got a question coming up from someone who wrote me this weekend, but I wanted to ask you, what was the best piece of evidence you got last year?
Best piece of evidence I got? Well, it's awesome. It is so awesome. Oh my gosh, I have to think about it. Okay, I can tell you about it. It's an ongoing investigation. Okay. Probably some of the best evidence I've got. And matter of fact, it's one of these investigations that I'm working on right now. So anyway.
How about this? Give us what you can of it, and then next time we talk, hopefully you can give us the full details. How about that?
It's so funny, because every now and then I get a call from a production company about cattle mutilations. Well, can we go with you, or can you tell us when your next cattle mutilation is going to be? Well, how the hell am I going to know that? I don't know that. It's like asking a fireman when the next house is going to be on fire. Yeah. Right? You don't know that stuff. But so this is an investigation where a couple of events have popped up this last year, and so I'm waiting for the event to happen again, and it could be at any time. so I can get down there. Now, this is in the lower part of Colorado towards New Mexico. I don't want to give the exact
No,
city.
you're fine.
Their security cameras, they've got a few security cameras on their farm, picked up metallic craft going by.
Really?
And they shot it to me. They gave me the video. I slowed it down. This thing is moving at almost the speed of light. It is moving. The interesting thing is it's not big. It's small.
Really?
And there's more to this too. So you can clearly see the video they sent me just shows this little blur, right?
Okay.
I got a couple of them. When I slowed it down, you could see the craft in one image. The second, then it moved.
Okay.
And then you see a second image, and the third image, it had made a left turn and shot away off to the sky. It moved that quick. You can't compare that to an insect. It's just or anything like that. I mean, it's clearly metallic. It's reflecting light. It is just the most awesome thing I've seen lately. And I'm like so excited and so jazzed about it, but it kind of falls into the balls of light theory.
Well, next time we talk, hopefully we can talk about it a little bit more. How about that? Because I don't want to screw up your investigations. So
no, it's just one of these things, and part of these investigations too that you have to build with some witnesses. You have to build a little bit of trust between the two. Yeah, and so sometimes that takes some time, unfortunately, to build some trust up, and they got to trust you. You got to trust they're not giving you, But we're at that point now where the trust is there. So let's get to the point now where we're gonna dive into it.
It's the same thing with an interview. You and I wouldn't have the same conversation the first time we talked as we are now.
Oh yeah, it's just one of those things, where it's. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it takes a little bit of.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit before you got on air and about how long how many times we've talked in the past and what you can expect. Oh, by the way, too, there's another Bigfoot investigation. We're kind of following this right now. Well, if you go to Denver and you hang a left up to the mountains, it's up that way. But it's basically there's something going on over there up in this particular location. It's been going on for a couple of months now. And I'm kind of like, we're kind of feeling it with another investigator out of Denver and then with the witness. And we're kind of waiting to see if something pops up again. We'll head over there real quick, to see if we can capture some type of evidence. But Bigfoot is one of those other things, too. I was kind of a skeptic with Bigfoot for the longest time until I did a Bigfoot investigation along with another investigator who was a long-term Bigfoot investigator. And I'm looking at a footprint, that's about 20 inches long. And I'm thinking, and it was left, right, 4-foot gates. And I'm going, oh, no.
Son of a this thing may be real.
Oh, no.
Hey, Chuck, I got to ask. My buddy Tony wanted to know, and this is one of those questions where that there's not an exact answer. But let's say that you want to try and see a UFO or try and see something like this. Is there an area in the country that's better for going and seeing this stuff? Like Colorado, you talk about usually a lot of stuff like Bigfoot or UFOs or stuff. Is there some place you can go in the country to maybe have a better shot at seeing it?
There is almost an exact answer and it's one of my latest theories. Wow, it's kind of cool that you kind of brought that up because that's something that I started working on last year, and actually a year before that, and I wrote a blog on it actually November of 2021, and I've been kind of like moving forward on it all last year. So places like the Skinwalker Ranch and other places, the Bradford Ranch over in Arizona, Skinwalkers in Utah.
Yeah.
I know of a place here in Colorado. I know of a place in Georgia and a couple of places. Well, if you want to look to see where there might be some UFO activity, one of my theories is hydrogen. That possibly the UFOs, they have a tendency to hang around areas where there's a lot of hydrogen. Now, of course, that's water, which is one thing. And the reason why I say hydrogen is because every one of my mutilation cases, people have seen UFOs or balls of light near water sources. I've done too many of them now where it's not coincidence, it's the fact, because it's near water sources. And So and I'm looking at water, H2O. Well, it's either oxygen or hydrogen. Well, it's easy to get, oxygen, but hydrogen, we don't have, that
Yeah.
much in our atmosphere. So there's other ways you have to, get hydrogen. And that would be from water. Guess what the other source would be? Any petroleum based.
Okay.
So anything like natural gas, crude oil.
Interesting.
Any places like, Skinwalker Ranch, prime example, it's sitting right on an oil reserve. And then other places like the Bradford Ranch in Arizona, there's water sources like aquifers, right?
Okay.
The San Luis Valley aquifers, and then when you get into Dulce, New Mexico, it's oil and aquifers too. So what you're doing is, my theory is looking at, okay, first off, you can go on like the International UFO website or whatever. You kind of look to see where UFOs are, or you look at areas, and this is what I specified on my blog. Look at areas in the U.S. that have an aquifer and maybe also oil, right? That oil reserve. Look at that particular area and then look for UFO sightings in that area. If you see there was more UFO sightings in that area, that would be another type of Skinwalker Ranch. That would be another case of where you may want to go. So far, I'm 100 to 100. I'm 10 of 10 of some of the places I know that have that Skinwalker Ranch type places that sit on oil reserves or on a water. So it's got to be. So that's why I'm thinking, theorizing that it's hydrogen. Obviously I don't know until I actually.
Yeah. But that's what's different about this? Okay, I got you. I also got a question from Eric. He wanted to know, how long will it take for the elite to figure out anti-gravity, or have they already figured it out and keeping it secret?
Well, if you believe in Roswell, they've already been playing with reverse alien technology. I started off this whole business 30 some years ago as a Roswell investigator. And so I've over the years, not recently, but over the years, I've had the opportunity to actually meet and talk to the people who were part of that in 1947. They've passed since,
Yeah.
So they talked about, and you have to think about anti-gravity. First off, is it something that kind of just floats, or is it some type of propulsion system that's floating it?
Yeah.
That we perceive as anti-gravity. Now, the whole thing with Bob Lazar, if you think about Bob Lazar, who claimed to work at S40 or A51, he always talked about the sport model. I actually have a model of the sport model behind me, but where he talked about the sport model has gravity wave generators, 3 of them on the bottom, and the gravity wave generators would float. We have gravity A and gravity B waves, shooting across, space, and they would bounce off. I think they would bounce off the gravity B waves. So what they were doing was they were reacting with the gravity waves. And just recently, within the past 4 years or so, our scientists are trying to explain gravity waves and try to understand them a little bit more, and realizing that they're everywhere. They're just not here on our planet.
Yeah.
They're all across space.
Wasn't there something about gravity waves that got proven that when it was 2 black holes colliding, wasn't it? That they could test something, or they got confirmation. I don't know. This is something from last year, and my brain's a little melted. So
yeah, I kind of remember seeing something where they're trying to prove that the gravity waves do exist.
Yeah, and it was something about a black hole colliding with like a quasar or something. I don't know, but okay, so yeah, it's probably out there. You know what? One of those movement theories really melted my mind one time was the idea that it's not the craft moving through the universe; it's the universe moving around the craft.
Yeah, well, that goes with what came first, the chicken or the egg. It's just it's one of those questions that. That's the same thing too. Someone hit me up before Christmas and said, "Oh, what are your thoughts on the fact that we're part of a software? We're part of a software program."
Yeah.
An AI software program.
A simulation.
And we're a simulation. Yeah. And theoretically, if you're religious and you believe that life was created by God and then theoretically, that we would be a simulation based from a God's eyes.
Yeah.
simulating what God wants to do, if you want to look at it that way. I look at it more like, because I have to address it analytically, so I don't piss off people, basically. I just kind of throw science at them as much as I can. But recently, their last year, they're also talking about, meteorites or, or icy meteors that actually have, water on them and amino acids that are within the water. And as these icy things are floating or flying through space, as they hit planets, they're impacting the planets with water, and they're impacting the planets with amino acids. And the amino acids, under certain conditions, can create life. So it's one of these life-creating things that we're just now realizing that's been flying through space for eternity, right?
It's panspermia, isn't it? What it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Look at me with the big brain today.
Yeah, look at you. Yeah, look at you.
Every once in a while, Chuck, every once in a while, I pay attention to this stuff. But yeah, I mean, you get into some really weird stuff. But Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com on the line with me right now. Chuck, what do you got coming up this year? What I know you're talked about the investigation you're doing with Southern Colorado there. What else you got coming up?
Well, I mean, and then the Bigfoot stuff.
The Bigfoot stuff as well.
Yeah, Bigfoot stuff. I'm already getting some pings of doing some conferences and stuff right now. I've got one inked. I think it's towards the end of May in Cripple Creek, a smaller one, but I like Cripple Creek. It's over here outside of Colorado Springs. It's up a little ways. I tell you what, I turned down an opportunity. I won't tell you the network, but just around Thanksgiving to Christmas time, I was contacted by a production company to go on one of their episodes. The more I got into it, the more I realized these guys, I couldn't trust them.
Yeah.
And it was just, and it also turned out that they were actually mimicking one of my episodes from Alien Highway. They were basically copying it. They were talking to every one of the people that I had talked to, and they want to do the same things. And then they had their own team, and their own team has zero background in ufology. and I'm looking at I don't need these Yahoo people who think they're all that. Oh, the only reason why I found out they were on their team is because they have a social media following. Which tells me the production company is looking for the social media following to give them, the ratings that they want. It's
marketing, man. So, it's marketing.
Yeah, it is marketing, but it's sad because you got two people that have no clue what the hell they're doing. And they're going to question me on my investigation. I said, I'll probably end up shooting them. No, I don't want to do that. I said, no. And besides, I said, I've already done that on my show, and you don't need to do it. Once again, it's these production companies that are remaking movies, and they're, and they're not as good as as the originals. I had an opportunity to actually be shooting an episode in February, but he kind of I don't know. He hit a nerve with me, and I pretty much chewed his ass out on the phone. And
Chuck? No.
and copyright infringement, all kinds of stuff. Well, it gets me. I have to tell you what. Not only my compassion of doing ufology is really strong. I mean, I've been doing it years, decades, right? But what gets me more mad is the fact that some of these production companies are just faking stuff, and the people. I mean, when I write a blog, I try to do whatever I can on my blog and put the information out that whoever reads it, they can understand. If they don't understand it, there are links of where I've got it from, the whole bit, so it gives it some type of credibility. But some of these other production companies or TV shows out there, they're just faking evidence. They're just doing they're pulling the wool over their viewers' eyes, basically, and a lot of these people are just taking it all in, going, they're just accepting it. And I don't blame them because they don't understand, they don't have the experience.
Yeah.
But I can't watch a ghost show anymore. I really can't.
We've talked about this, and I'm totally with you because once you see about how much stuff they change from stories. It's like, well, I don't know if you're telling me a story. I don't know if you're telling me a fib, a lie, if you made any of this up or what, you know?
Well, some of these more popular ghost shows.
Except Alien Highway. Was that thing just spot on?
I tell you what, I'll have to tell you about Alien Highway in a minute, but basically the ghost shows, it's one of these things where if you notice, oh my God, Oak Island, right? You watch Oak Island?
Oh, God, Oak Island.
Okay, well, the reason why that's Prometheus is doing Oak Island, I won't deal with Prometheus because, matter of fact, one of the guys that I shoot out about this last thing, he was from Prometheus, and they have their own style. They totally believe that the viewers out there have an attention span of 30 seconds to 45 seconds because, every 45 seconds they have to give you something that keeps your attention. So their audience, they believe, are just a bunch of babbling fools that.
Real quick, I don't want to tell you who said. I'll tell you off air who said it. But I was interviewing someone, and he goes, "There isn't anything on that island."
but if you watch the shows, and Prometheus is good about it, they keep not retracting. They keep going over stuff they've already covered.
Yeah.
And then even
it's storytelling.
When you get into the paranormal, it's storytelling. And then even after, if you get into the UFO part, like some of the ghost shows, it seems like every 45 seconds something has to happen to catch your attention. And that something that happens is usually either completely false or just completely misdiagnosed by the inexperienced people. One of the shows I was on years ago, there was 3 investigators. One of them was a real investigator. He was a real ghost investigator. The other 2 were actors, bottom line.
Yeah.
Another show I was on, one of the investigators was the producer's daughter.
Oh, there you go.
So this is what you're getting. Now I'm watching some of these other ghost shows, and I've done a few ghost investigations just to learn. I went with actual other investigators out of Denver and out here at Colorado Springs, and they kind of like taught me, and then I kind of took off on my own and did a few of my own. There's another reason why I did that, but I realized real quick that you can spend a whole night not getting anything out there at all.
That's always the funny thing talking to, because I paranormal research is more kind of the stuff I've gone and investigated, and there's a lot of nights where you sit in the dark talking to yourself. That's the night.
Oh my gosh, you just struck a nerve. Oh.
I mean, that's what it is, and they never show it, but that is legitimately what it is. Now, when you get a piece of evidence that you can't explain, that's when it gets pretty neat. But overall, you're just sitting in the dark, talking to your friends or going out and hanging out.
Right. Now you got to go back a couple sentences and remove the paranormal part.
Okay.
And say ghost investigations.
Oh.
Now, my next blog, and I'm going to say this, my next blog is I'm going after the podcasters and TV shows that redefine the word paranormal. And for the word paranormal basically means everything.
Yeah, I'll tell you this right now. A lot of the paranormal or ghost or UFO podcasts, I can't listen to those either because it's always so over dramatic. It was a dark and stormy night and all this other bullshit. It's like, just have a human conversation about this. It doesn't have to be.
Too.
Yeah. It drives me nuts. And I will tell you this, there is one, and I'll give a shameless plug for and it's something you'd probably be into as well. There is a podcast called The Y Files. And it's very well done, and it's very, very interesting stuff that if you get a chance, yeah, it's done in a very good way. It's hard to explain and not take up too much time, but I get it. Anyways, Chuck Zukowski from UFOnut.com on the line with me right now. Hey, Chuck, you said that you do go and do some of these appearances and conventions and conferences or whatever. If there was one that people were going to go to, and it's like a good one, not one where it's just, hey, come and buy the alien cookies and, watch such and such, do alien tricks. What's the one that someone should go to?
Well, the one that I've always liked, and my friend Alejandro Rojas, has been running it. It's the UFO Congress out of Arizona.
Okay.
And the only reason why, I mean, I know some of these other conferences. I know MUFON has a symposium, but they pissed me off last year, and I won't talk to them anymore.
Say the one that people should check out.
Well, that would be the UFO Congress out of
Congress. Okay.
UFO Congress.
Chuck Zukowski from UFO.com on the line with me right now. We'll get all your information. Chuck, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure.
I really enjoy talking with you because I can be more me here. I know because it's a rock station, so your audience is
it's not
been
that
my audience for years.
It's not. You know what? That's part of it. But the other part of it is, and it goes back to the thing about I don't need paranormal, whatever it happens to be over dramatic. You can have a real conversation about it in a friendly, fun way without the dramatic music in the background or the way you word stuff and all that. You can have fun with this stuff.
No, you don't have to be dramatic, Zach Biggins. And what you and what you do in your shows. Okay, I was on Ghost Adventures, and yeah, Zach is very, very, very dramatic.
They're all dramatic.
It's more acting. It's more acting than it is investigating, actually. So it's unfortunate. But once again, it's one of those things to capture the audience's attention because for some reason they think the audience has only got a 45-second, attention span. And I think that's not true. I think the audience is a little more intelligent to that. My blogs happen to be just a little bit longer than some other blogs just because I put more information in it. So it makes it a little bit more of a long read. But I'm not going after the people that are the Twitter guys that just want to read 50, 40 words or whatever and then go on with something else, because you're not going to get everything. You're going to miss something. I guess I could just do one blog broken up into 10 pieces.
140 characters, Chuck. 140 characters. Chuck, we'll get all the information.
I should do it.
Do it. I dare you. We'll see how it works. But
I might do that just for the hell of it.
140 character blog. See how much you can get done. Just like 130 per post. So anyways, Chuck, good luck to you. We'll get all your information up there. Thank you so much, man.
I am writing that down right now. 140. That would be a good experiment. I would do that. After I release the paranormal one and disclaimer you, okay?
Chuck, thanks so much, man.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you every time. So thank you.